Hello! Today's stories come from r/PettyRevenge. We have 4 funny Reddit stories today, maybe a touch less comedic, but it looks like they've doubled up on pettiness. Story 1 is titled, Jerk Learns. You take a pic of me, I take a pic of you. For context, I'm built for comfort, not speed, but I fit into a plane seat just fine. The scene: a cheap airline flight in which you get exactly what you pay for. This was just last night. The characters: Seat D, aisle, middle aged man, average in every way, I assume. Seat E, my chubby self. Seat F, window, pleasant larger guy who did use a bit of my seat, which was fine. This flight was under $100 and is not forever. Seat D, who we'll call the nickname for Richard, aka Jerk, for this story, became fidgety and started sighing loudly when we were delayed on the tarmac. No problem. Jerk probably felt frustrated. Then he took a selfie that included the whole row. Hey, okay, Jerk, a bit weird, whatever. So I did look at his phone. He's sending this pic to people complaining about how fat myself and Frank were. Ugh, life must be hard for Jerk. Then I pulled out some hard candy because I'm fat, obviously. Only fat people eat candy. So he put his phone where I could see it and typed, Now the fat girl is getting candy out. Okay, Jerk, settle down. In the glance, I got to see other texts describing how I was spilling into his seat. Incorrectly, but clearly life is hard for Jerk. So then I said, You know, if you're unhappy with your seat because I'm too fat for you, you can ask a flight attendant to move you. All smiles. For real. Jerk said nothing, did nothing. But the fidgets and sighs stopped. He kept texting, but out of my sight. Fast forward to the middle of the flight, Jerk snoozing, head flopped back, mouth open. So I took a picture of this gift to mankind. He slept until the last 20 minutes of the flight. In the last 20 minutes, I edited the heck out of this photo, but in the pettiest way. No horns or anything. Just decorated the border with different flowers, then decided, no, erased, did different deco. For 20 minutes. He's just watching, but didn't say anything. So I tried some various captions like, Fat women scare me. Touching fat women makes me feel yucky inside, etc. I also verbally consulted with Frank about my choice of flower stickers. Jerk turns in his seat and faces the aisle. I didn't see his face again, ever, because he stayed like that till he could get off and I had to get my coat from above. But I'll always have the memories. Nice meeting you, Jerk. Edited to add. I put that pic on my profile. You bet your sweet bippy I have the photo to share. I've had to blur it to protect the person's identity, but check this out. Jerk is totally dead to the world. My favorite part is definitely the text. Numerous Steak said, He's no lightweight either. Cheese Curls added, Gross. He looks like that gym teacher. You know, the ones who suddenly decide socks should be off when you're on the mat, and the entire time they're looking down, staring intently at everyone's toes. Ash with a smile added, Oddly specific. Grey Matter Gone Wild said, If only you could have posted that pic of his snoring self somewhere that an acquaintance might catch it. LOL. OP replied, I know. I wish I could at least put it here, but it's not allowed. I just hope he's my seatmate on the way back in a few days. Jerk is a real treat of a human, my goodness. It's unfortunate that OP had to deal with this guy at all, but she handled it brilliantly. Story 2 became one of the top Ada stories of the holidays. It's titled, Refuse to give the gift you promised my daughter? Fine, I'll take away the gift I got for you. This year, I got a job that has been paying me very well. Therefore, for this Christmas, I decided to splurge on everyone. In particular, I spent a lot of my money on my 9-year-old daughter, and she deserves it 100%. She has been pushing herself in school, helping around the house without being asked, and is always being the kindest soul you'll ever meet. However, when my mother-in-law came early in the morning and saw how the gifts under our tree were much more than usual, she asked why. I told her I bought everyone a bunch of gifts, including her. She then proceeded to ask how much gifts I got my daughter, and I told her about 3 big gifts and 3 mini ones. Apparently, this outraged her because she started saying that a 9-year-old did not deserve that many gifts. She added that she would be taking away the gifts she bought my daughter so that my daughter wouldn't be too spoiled. I told her that was unfair, especially since my mother in law promised my daughter a doll for Christmas, and my daughter was looking forward to it. My mother in law said, "Let it be a lesson to my daughter that in life, she can't get all things she asks for." Look, I understand that, but it's not like I shower my daughter in gifts every day. And if anything, Christmas is the day you are supposed to spoil your children. But my wife told me to let it go, and it was her mother's gift, and therefore she could do anything she wanted with it. And her mother agreed, saying it was her gift. And if we were going to play with that ideology, then so be it. I decided to remove this $600 designer bag I got my mother in law. It was the thing I knew she wanted the most, and gave her a $40 robe instead. Once my mother in law opened her present, she was disappointed, asking if that was all from me, because everyone else got increasingly more expensive gifts from me. And I said yes and apologized if I disappointed her, but we can't always get the gifts we hope for. This left both her and my wife extremely furious. But hey, the mother in law got enough gifts. I wouldn't want to spoil her. OP did provide an update as a separate story in another subreddit. I've linked it in the description. But it was so light on specifics and didn't deal with the mother in law, and it read very oddly. In summary, the mother in law made an Instagram post that got a lot of traction, and OP said some unknown things in reply and caught the attention of his workplace. Apparently, his work has some connection to his public profile on social media, and that little altercation got him fired. The wife called it karma, and then OP and his family dried their tears and slept like babies on obscene piles of cash and wealth. I may have added that last part. Story 3 begins a whole new meaning to calling work a rat race. It's titled, "I trained a senior colleague to do what I want without him ever knowing." I used to work in a role where I administrated the security access card system for a huge office. An obnoxious colleague used to take a shortcut from the lobby through a meeting room and out the other side to his desk. In doing so, he would leave the meeting room's entrance door open, which would sound an alarm once he had left the area. I sat in the lobby near the door he left open, and I was the one who had to get up and close it for him. He didn't respond to polite requests to stop, so I disabled his access pass, but only on the second door, which is closest to his desk. He'd walk through the meeting room, get 6 feet from his desk, and be declined by the door. This caused him to have to walk back to me to ask if something was wrong with his access. I'd ask him to close the shortcut door he'd opened, alarm now sounding, and he always did. Then I'd act confused and say, "Why don't you try it on that door over there?" I would then direct him to the proper entrance to the office area, which had a mysterious 100% success rate for letting him through. I simulated an intermittent technical error by deactivating his card and then reactivating it for well over 12 months. And I acted dumb anytime he questioned it. I've asked ICT about it, but nobody knows, mate. Who knows how these systems work? Sometimes he would forget his personal pass, and I'd issue him a visitor pass and disable that on his shortcut too, which added an extra layer of obfuscation. Sometimes I'd allow him to use his shortcut, and I'd happily close the door behind him, knowing that it was all part of his education. Eventually, he learned that it was always quicker to walk straight to the proper entrance. He stopped taking the shortcut and stopped leaving the alarm door near me open, and he never found out that I trained him. The top comment was from Heg. There's a really fun book on conditioning called Don't Shoot the Dog. A class on psychology decided to F with their teacher, so every time he walked to the left side of the room, they were attentive, and when he was on the other side, they ignored him. Didn't take long to jam him up in the corner. Then they told him what they had done. He must have been proud. On to the next. Story 4 delivers on karmic revenge and reminds us all that the best revenge is a life lived well. It is titled, I tipped my ex-friend and bully as petty revenge. To start, this girl and I were best friends the first half of high school. However, something changed in her. She became depressed because she was being severely bullied online. I reported what she told me to both the school counselors and her parents, and I told her that I told them. She decided I betrayed her and suddenly became a bully towards me. Ironically, she became friends with the girls who bullied us both right after. She later found out they were the online bullies too. My first job was front end at a restaurant, and she knew when and where I worked. So she made it a point to show up at my work where I really couldn't do much. I had to serve her and her new friends. She saw me coming and said to not expect a tip because service industry workers are servants who don't need to be paid. That stuck with me for years. I told my manager that I refused to serve her or them ever again. Manager was fine with it at that point, as I had made comments before. From that day on, I never spoke to my ex friend for years. Recently, I went to my hometown in a local restaurant. Lo and behold, my waiter is my ex friend. Again, I haven't spoken to her at all since that day she basically said I was her servant. I decided to get petty revenge by killing her with kindness. I was polite, but never acknowledged that I knew her. She kept saying she swears she recognizes me from somewhere. I kept brushing the question off. Then came the bill. I put a note on it that said, first and former last name. Do you still think service workers are servants who don't need to be paid? With a 100% tip on a $40-ish meal. As I walked out, I saw her face as she read the note. She turned very, very red. I think my kind, petty revenge got to her. Edit. 15 years of not seeing or hearing from each other, name change due to marriage, glasses I wasn't wearing during high school, a different haircut, as in from long hair to shaved, and adding 30 pounds will make you harder to recognize. OP added 2 details in the comments. Athen280 said, "You're like a Tarantino villain. Too kind." OP replied, "Oh, I wanted her to know who I was." And to her credit, she did give great service. So as far as service industry worker goes, she did deserve a great tip. Ninja Red said, "Man, she really was in a dark place if she thought it was appropriate to keep bullying you up until your second year of college. And all because you were trying to help her? She's a mess. She should have gotten help when she had the chance, though you can't help those who don't want any." OP replied, "Yep. Her parents kept me informed for a little while. They tried to force her to get help, even down to hospitalization at one point. They really were superheroes, in my opinion. She obviously survived." Ooh, karma can really get ya. She probably doesn't have any friends either, given her track record of turning her back on them. I just love the classy petty revenge stories. They're amazing. If you've enjoyed the story and would like to hear more, consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. Thanks, and bye for now.